Yep.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Inside Pass. It is Wednesday night, and sorry we're coming on so late. We were having technical difficulties trying to get a hold of Ross Chastain, who's still not on the phone yet, but I'm going to try again here in a minute, and hopefully he will be on. Tom Baker, Randy Miller here with you. Once again, we apologize for coming on so late. We are there's other shows that film in our studio, so we had to wait for that show to film to get done being aired or whatever, and then I had to try to call Ross, and we're having technical I can't even talk. Technical difficulties. Easy for me to say. So hopefully we'll get that worked out and we'll have him on. I was excited about having him on too, because next week his boss, or I guess his part-time boss, Chris Rice will be here. So I wanted some ammo to kind of go with Chris being on next week. So hopefully I'll be able to get him on, and we'll try again here in a little bit and see if we can get a hold of him. So a lot of things to cover tonight. Actually, I was on Twitter before coming on the show, and there's a guy named Adam Stern. He's like a business guy who breaks a lot of the business news regarding NASCAR and IndyCar and stuff. There's a couple of, I guess, breaking news. I can't do it like Jacob does. Breaking news items, I guess, that he tweeted out moments ago. The first of which, he was basically said that a group of NASCAR executives that went to Indy for the 500 this weekend actually had a meeting inside the Honda trailer. He said he didn't have any idea what that meeting was about, but I guess you can fuel rumors all you want to about what that meeting might be about. Could be maybe they're discussing Honda coming into Cup. Who knows?
Well, there's been the ongoing rumor for the last few weeks that Richard Petty and Michael Andretti were going to kind of pair up in some form or fashion, Randy, and bring Honda into NASCAR. It's interesting because I think most of us kind of dismiss that out of hand because we understand that rumors are abound all the time, and I didn't really put a lot of stock in that, but hearing that, Adam Stern is usually pretty accurate.
Yes.
It's rare that Adam's wrong. So let's put it this way. If that could be true, and you look at the idea of Honda, Richard Petty, and Michael Andretti teaming up, this would seem like nothing but good for a few reasons. One, if you're Honda and you want to come into Cup, you're not going to attract any of the current elite teams. And so if you're wanting to grab a team that could bring you some credibility, you do this in a couple of different ways. You can go and try and get maybe perhaps a Richard Childress or a Chip Ganassi, but I doubt you're going to get either of those two teams. So I think you look at what is the biggest marquee name that you could grab and come in to Cup with a lot of money and kind of look like a white horse, if you will, or a white knight. It's Richard Petty. And so when you look at this, it doesn't sound that far-fetched. And the other thing is, if you can take the Richard Petty name and you can take Bubba Wallace, who's a very young, hungry African-American racer who has shown the talent to win, then you also open yourself up to multiplying the team, adding a second car, and maybe you go and get one of the up-and-coming young racers out of the Xfinity Series that you could put into the second car, and, you go racing. I mean, I think, but the big thing is, for me, is, Randy, it it just takes so much money to come in. I mean, you got to be really committed. And I think there are other manufacturers, in fact, I'm sure of it, that are really wanting into NASCAR. And I think 2021 or 2022 would be a great time for that once we have the new Gen 7 car and, the kind of the new NASCAR going with the scheduling and the motors and all that. But, I definitely don't see it happening next year. I would think it would have to be at least 2021 before that would happen. But that's a really interesting, if that's true, I think that definitely sets up a very, very intriguing off-season to see if and when that might actually grow some legs.
Yeah, I can hear old school NASCAR fans right now complaining about Honda being in Cup, much like they did with Toyota when Toyota came to Cup. But, people have to look at it from a business perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's good for business, obviously, back in the day when we had, Buick and we had, Pontiac and we had, now Chevy and Ford and Dodge and, we had all these manufacturers. It's good for business because if
it is
dominated by one specific brand, then that's all that people talk about. This is one specific brand. Toyota has dominated the truck series for the last couple of years. Now, it's been Ford for most of this season and Toyota with Gibbs, and so now Hendrick is coming back, and now Chevy's starting to see some of the popularity coming back to the Chevrolet brand now because their cars are actually starting to do good and be talked about again. So I think anything that's good for NASCAR or good for business is going to be good for the sport, definitely. The other piece of news that he broke, which Tom will be happy about, is IndyCar is in talks with Richmond to bring a race back to Richmond.
Yay!
So I know you're an advocate for more ovals in the IndyCar circuit, so
we need them. I've always had a belief that what makes IndyCar appealing is that these are basically rocket ships, right? And it's the on the edge of disaster kind of feel that really makes IndyCar racing exciting. And when you're running 230 at Indy, or you're running 220 into turn one at Pocono, or Fontana, whatever, Iowa. These oval tracks, I think they put on great shows. Texas, and I think Richmond is a really interesting. I think the timing for that is right. I think IndyCar's got a pretty good balance because they do need some street courses and some road courses, and I think they could replace a couple of them and add some ovals back into the mix. But I don't want to kill all of that. I don't want it to be an all-oval series, but I certainly think a track like Richmond makes sense. And this market loves their open-wheel racing. In Richmond, I think having Richmond and Pocono, if you can't get Watkins Glen back, I think having Richmond and Pocono both in the sort of northeast mid-Atlantic market, if you space them out enough, makes perfect sense because I think people will go to both if they can.
Right. Yeah, you need if you're going to do the oval thing, you need a mix of different ovals. So I think what's wrong with NASCAR is the fact that we go to the same tracks over and over and over all season long. If you mix up the tracks and say, like Richmond's a short track, so if Indy doesn't visit too many of those short tracks, which I know there's probably not a lot that can anyway, but mix it up with some road courses and do some other some street courses, maybe just a couple of different things. If anything, what we saw, the race we saw at Indy, the Indy 500 this past weekend was a great race.
It was awesome.
They could duplicate that. And I'm an advocate, and I'll be the first to admit I'm usually somebody who can't sit and watch a full Indy race, and I actually watched a good vast majority of the 500. I was working, so I couldn't really just watch it, but what I saw of it was completely fascinating to me, and it made me appreciate IndyCar that much more. Because I kind of lost that passion over the last several years, just because of all the tragedies with Dan Weldon and everything happening. I just was like, it wasn't my kind of thing. But then watching it again, I'm like, that's why I liked it in the first place, is the action and the excitement that I saw in that race.
Well, and see, that's what IndyCar's always been. It's always been about ingenuity, engineering, trying different things. Of course, in more recent times, the current IndyCar is a spec chassis, basically. And, and that, I think that's been a great move and great for the division. But so now it basically becomes, the races that get talked about the most in IndyCar are always the ones on the high-speed ovals. Some of the older drivers aren't crazy about it because they just, how do I say this nicely? I think some of them are just past the point where they have that kind of bravery anymore. They don't want to run the higher speed ovals. They don't want 3 and 4 wide. They want to be on the street courses and road courses. But that's not, there's a certain road race crowd that enjoys that, but definitely not. For us, we're kind of oval track people, and I grew up with IndyCar in the 70s and 80s, and I obviously love the fact that they're much safer now, but those cars running all out, they're meant to be run fast. Those cars running around a street course, bumping into Jersey barriers at 100 miles an hour, trying to pass each other, are just not. It takes the seat of your pants, thrill out of it, and you're kind of just watching a parade. And so I love the idea of Richmond coming back. I think that's nothing but good for the series if that's the case. And certainly, like I said, if you can't get Watkins Glen back on the schedule, which I don't know why the heck not, but if you can't make that work, Richmond is certainly a good alternative to have 2 races over in this market over here, because I think it's ripe for it, and there's a lot of fans here of IndyCar, so I think that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I did read somewhere too that I guess they were looking at maybe like a Sonoma race, and the Sonoma track president said he didn't want IndyCar because it was going to cost him a lot more money than it was worth. I don't know if that's true, but I guess it could be. I don't know.
You mean the show at Richmond?
No. The having IndyCar race at Sonoma.
Oh, Sonoma.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, here's the thing. Sonoma would be a great track for the IndyCars. I think that if you look at Sonoma as a road course, it's kind of a lower speed course. I think it'd be a nice track for them, but here again, you've got races in that market, and how many races do you want to put on in the same market? Phoenix is a good show, but I don't think that you're going to see that back for a bit. You run Auto Club. I think Sonoma may be one too many. I think Texas being on the schedule, which I think should stay on the schedule. I think Texas and if you can get a track like Richmond, I think that's a good addition. Definitely hope COTA stays for a long, long time. I think that was an excellent race. And again, that's a circuit that honestly, I think NASCAR ought to be looking at as well. So, I don't know if, honestly, I'd certainly be in favor of a show at Sonoma, but I don't know how they would do crowd-wise there, just because the California crowd with Indy cars has always been really strange. They either show up or they don't, and you really gotta find the perfect time of the year for a race in California, because if it's too hot, nobody comes. And, I get that. If it's 105 in the shade, nobody's going to sit in the grandstand all day.
Okay, well, we have our featured guest, right? So why don't you go ahead and
Okay, we have Ross Chastain. Finally, it took a little while, but we got there. Ross Chastain, welcome to the Inside Pass. It's great great to have you on. And I know that Charlotte probably didn't turn out for you as you would have liked in the Xfinity car, but it was certainly a great showing during the day. The electrical problems just kind of put you on a bit of a downward spiral, but you still drove it from the back and finished pretty well, all things being considered.
Yeah, we did, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was definitely an up and down weekend from minimal practice, only 2 laps, and knowing that was the plan going in to going out and getting ready to, lay it all out there for a big qualifying lap, knowing we had speed in the car and gonna really push hard. Coming off turn 4 to take the green, and a tiny little wire, a little $2 connector broke, and that it shut off a couple times and was stumbling, so I couldn't stay up to speed. That was a bummer. I was really looking forward to laying a lap down. We were going out relatively early, even though we were behind of where we were supposed to go out because of tech inspection issues, but still was really looking forward to that. Hadn't looked forward to qualifying like that on the Xfinity side for quite some time. So bummed about that. But yeah, we started the race. A lot of guys laid over for us and let us pass before the green, but we still got credited with a 37th place starting position, and I think we actually started about 19th. So that was pretty cool. They, by the time TV caught on, they just thought we passed all those cars, but I'm not going to tell them anything different.
We won't tell anybody.
Your secret.
I guess if I'm saying it on y'all's show, it's going to get out. So.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's funny.
So my question to you, because it's funny to me because, last year we were able to keep up with you because you only ran like a couple of cars. And it seems like this year, like especially in the Xfinity Series, there are times where I feel like you're running like 3 cars at the same time because you're in so many different cars and you're running all 3 series for most of the year. How do you keep up with what car you're supposed to be in every week? Do you show up at the wrong shop and you're like, oh, wait, I'm not in this car this week?
Right. No, I have switched from paper calendars to Google and Apple calendars, and I have them linked with different people that help me behind the scenes. And the guys at JD, the guys at Colic, and everybody in between, they all do help. A lot of reminders, though, is how we get through it. They send me lots of reminders for interviews like this, and sorry for the technical difficulty there to get on, but for once I wasn't late for something, so that's kind of a feather in my cap because usually I'm the one that's late. But no, it's just a lot of talking every day, talking as much as we can, just trying to piece it all together. Honestly, just trying to put my best foot forward, and none of this year was planned how it's happened, but we're all making the best of it, and it's not the best situation. We're all, I feel like a lot of times, have one hand tied behind our back, and we're going into the boxing ring, but that's racing is not supposed to be easy, so it's no different than you guys on the broadcast side or anything else. It's you just get up and you fight, and I'm fortunate to have 2 different Xfinity teams that want me to drive, so I juggle that the best I can. It's not always great, it's not always the greatest of things or situations, but I just wake up and I try to do the best I can and make everybody happy.
You've always been so positive, Ross. I mean, ever since I've known you and started to watch you race at the NASCAR level, you've always been so positive. It's really, your story is a great story, and it's a real, I think, motivational story for other racers who don't have that, the natural resources, if you will, to be able to just go and get themselves in the best positions. You've scratched and clawed all the way up, all the way into NASCAR. You have earned every bit of respect that you've gotten. And you're on the cusp right now, I think, and I hope anyway, of a move to the Cup Series at some point in the near future if you just keep going the way you are. And it's a pretty amazing story. How do you keep yourself on such an even keel, even when things aren't necessarily going well?
I mean, what do I have to be negative about, honestly? I'm getting to live out my dream. And from growing up as a kid, I just planned on being a watermelon farmer. I thought I'd go to college and experience that and learn some more about agriculture, and then I would be back at the farm and growing the business and, building the house and all that. And then at 12 years old, my dad gets me into racing as a hobby, and I fell in love with it. But it really was just a hobby until I turned 18, and then it was like, holy cow, we can take a look at this stuff. And from there, it has snowballed into a great thing. Now, the last 6 months, I wouldn't wish on anybody because of the ups and downs and the great highs that came last fall, and then the lowest of lows where everything was planned out and everything is going so great, and just working to be ready for Daytona in the season. What all got changed? I really wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Just because if I never would have known about it, it wouldn't have been a problem because I would have never expected it. But once you see what's laid out in front of you, and you're working every day to be ready for when the time comes, and then it's all gone. I don't know. As race car drivers, we live a glamorous life, but we take this stuff so serious that, you get down and it's dark days, and you're like, why is the world against me? But you're still living a dream. So, and it's a dream that thousands of kids across America and the world and millions of people have dreamed about racing in NASCAR and racing at whatever their highest level of motorsport that they want to attain to. So what do I have to be sad about? So I took a while there in the off season, and then I was ready to go come January 2nd, back up here in the Carolinas, trying to just get them every day and trying to be the best race car driver I can be. And it's not a spin. It's not just for good PR. It's just my honest thoughts on what I do. And I don't tell people, but when you ask me, I'll tell you. And it's just kind of just like at the farm, where if it rains 2 inches one night, you're out there pulling boards and trying to get water out of the field, and then the next morning or 2 days later, you're turning the pump back on and you're pumping back into the field because you got to keep it irrigated just right. So I just wake up and fight every day.
Talking about the adversity and overcoming the adversity like you were talking about last fall, there's so many kids and so many young racers out there that probably look up to you now because of just the fact that you just kept going. You had bad news handed to you, and you said, I'm just gonna go back to square one or what have you, and start over. And since that time, of course, now you've gotten the Cup ride with Premium. You won at Kansas with Nice Motorsports. So I mean, for all the kids out there that think that when something bad happens either on the racetrack or in life or whatever, that they can look up to someone like you for guidance. What do you tell young kids that when something bad happens, just keep going and put your head up, and as they say, when life knocks you down, you just dust yourself off and get right back up and back on the horse again.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is just laps. I still need more laps in every series. I could do a better job. I still haven't ran the perfect race lap at any track and anything, any time. I want to be better, and that's all I tell kids that ask me, which is so odd that people and kids ask me for advice, because I'm still asking advice myself, and I'm trying to juggle all this. And I had a call tonight asking a guy in the industry that I really look up to and value his opinion. I call him every so often, just ask for advice, and at the end of the call, he ends with, I just remember how much you paid for that advice because it was free. So, that's how much it's worth. So, but I really, everybody's asking somebody they look up to for advice all the time, and it's odd that now I'm slotted in somewhere on the lower rungs. But yeah, just laps. Just get out there, and it doesn't matter if you're in the street stock division at your local short track. You're not going to show up, and if you go and buy a street stock at any age and go beat the guy that's been running there for 15 years. It's just not going to happen. He knows the track, he knows the cars, he knows everything that's going on with him, and he's done it 1,000 times. And you have to run enough laps where you have enough experience to beat him. So it's no different that level to the Cup level. So that's why I do so much to drive for Jay Robinson and try to be his driver, try to drive for Johnny Davis and be his driver, Al Neese, Matt Collick, just whoever wants me to drive, I want to do it, and I want to try to be the best.
Well, you've really had, by all accounts, I think, a pretty good season overall. And, of course, the win in the truck was just spectacular. And I know really a boost not only for you but for the team. And I think as you get into the summer part of the season, where it seems like in the beginning of the season, okay, everybody's we're all new, and we don't know who's going to be fast, who's not. But then as you start running the first 8, 10, 12 races, you've established, for example, that that 45 truck is going to be capable. It's going to be near the front. It's going to be capable of winning. Does that raise expectations that, hey, we can go win some more now?
I mean, for sure. I mean, Kyle Benjamin will be in the 45 truck for the next couple, and so he's going to plug right in and be up to speed, speed-wise, and then race ability and racecraft will come with time. But yeah, I think that definitely the expectations raised. I mean, we've gotten better each week. We look back and we learn something each week, and we get better. So I was there at the shop today, and they were showing me the stuff they're going to take to Texas, for Kyle in the 45 and Angela in the 44, and it's just the building. It's another step above where we were when we were at Texas or Kansas or Charlotte for the last three, and it's just cool to see that progression because they're only getting better. I mean, there's still room for improvement to run with Stewart and Brett and Sheldon next door at GMS, and then the KBM trucks when they hit it, or good. I'm so glad. I mean, honestly, I'm glad Kyle's done because it doesn't matter on our best day. We haven't been able to run with him, and our best day was at Kansas, not at any of those. So he ran. We had off days, so we never were able to compete with him. But the other KBM trucks we are, and down the list of Thor Sport, the rest of them, we can run with them on the best day. But that's what is so cool about racing is you show up and you don't know who's going to have their best day that weekend or who's going to be off a little bit. So, our worst days have been 10th, and our best day was winning, and then we were somewhere between 4th to 6th the rest of the time. So, yeah, it's just trying to be better, though.
So, I know you have a 3-race deal with Colleague. So I know you've gone to the shop and you've met Matt and you've met Chris and all those guys. Chris is actually going to be on the show next week. Him and I are really good friends. We've been friends for a long time. So every time I have somebody on the show who knows him or has dealt with him, I need ammo to fight him with. So if you have any first impressions of him or whatever that I can use, just as an example, when Alex Bowman drove for him when he was when Busher and all those guys were there, Alex told me that he called him Blimpy one time. So I asked him about that, and now I take flack for it every time that I talk to him because he gets mad at me because I brought it up to Alex. So if you've met him and you have anything you can give me for ammo, I'm going to write it down so that I can bug him about it next week.
Well, I'm not going to tell you to call him that. That's for dang sure. He works hard and he works out, and that's the last thing you want to.
He's also kind of your boss. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to make him mad. He's not a small lad. He could probably, if he wanted to, he could probably beat me up. He's threatened to a couple times. We've had our differences for sure. And that's what's so funny and cool about racing is your biggest enemy's on track because you're racing each other hard every week. It was back when Blake was driving the 11, and we were racing them every week in the 4, and they were frustrated, and we were kind of laughing about it. But they were a brand new team, and as they went, they got faster, and they moved away from us week to week. But there was a time there where Chris told Blake he needed to go down there and yell at me, get mad. And Chris has been mad at me, and I've been mad at them. And but now we're on each other's side. We're pushing each other, and working together with Nutrient Ag Solutions, and that whole program is only getting better. And that's because of the commitment that Chris and Matt and Colleague Racing are making, and that I'm making personally to try to grow the program. To try to be their driver. So it's no, I don't have any really ammunition against him. You could just ask him what his favorite fruit is, and if he should know. It's a loaded question, though. I mean, it should be watermelon, right?
All right, I'm gonna. So from what I gathered, I'm gonna get his side of the story about why he had Blake yell at you, like the actual story. So the next time you're on, I can.
And you could really just ask him why did he yell at me.
Oh, okay,
that's
even better.
That's a bigger question. We get a chuckle out of it. That was when all this came up for me to drive up there. He called me and said, "Why don't you come to the shop? I want to talk to you about some stuff that's coming about you driving, but before we get there, we got to clear the air." So I drove up there that day, and we stood there in the middle of the shop, talked through the whole scenario. I said my side, he said his. We shook hands, and we said, "Let's go racing." So it's cool that you can do that in racing and help each other.
Now you get to be a teammate of Justin Haley. What's that like?
He's cool. We're a lot similar in a lot of ways. In some ways, we're different. But I've already ran 2 and planning on 3 more.
Oh, wow.
So there's Chicago, Texas, and Kansas have been added. So there's 2 additional to the original 3. Justin's cool. I call him JJ just to pick at him because that was his name, and they changed it.
We call him
20
JJ
years
Justin
old or whatever.
Yeah.
So
We just use
he's
both.
JJ Haley forever in my book. And no, we've drafted together both races. He's just normal kid, just trying to make it just like I am.
So I sent out a tweet earlier this week when I told everybody you were going to come on because I actually had like a little teaser because I said something about how it's a small world. I was going to explain how it's a small world. So everybody knows you're from Florida. You're from it's Alva, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
It's near Fort Myers. So my wife's sister actually went to high school with your cousin Rachel.
Really?
Because they're from my wife and her sister and their whole family is from Fort Myers. They all went to Riverside High School just like you did. I don't know if it was around the same time frame, but yeah. So it's kind of funny that life is so small sometimes that you meet people that kind of know people, and so. But my wife's sister, your cousin Rachel is one of her best friends. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It is a small world, man. That's cool.
Very small world. So we're gonna let you go. Before we let you go, I already texted Leighton and told him that we need to have you come back on since we messed up. Well, he messed up. That's okay. I told him that I was gonna talk to you about getting him a day off. So I don't know if you gave him Memorial Day off, but if you didn't, you need to give him a vacation day so he can go take a break.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I need the day off. Yep. We've got a rough life in this racing industry.
Apparently.
Did Leighton give
Just
you the
ask
wrong
us about
phone
it.
number?
He
Is
gave me
that
the wrong
what-
area code.
Wrong area code. Okay.
The wrong
Well,
area- Well, he didn't give me the wrong one. He's dyslexic apparently. He gave me the wrong digits. He gave him
wrong
Anyway.
order.
So before we let you go, though, I know you probably have a list a mile long of people that you want to thank in all the 3 series that you race in. But take this opportunity and thank anybody that you might want to thank for helping you get where you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, Leighton, first of all, for getting me on here and scheduling this. But no, it's everything's online. Everything's Ross Chastain. So if anybody wants to follow along with the crazy story, we've revamped the website because apparently people still look at people's race car drivers' websites. So RossChastain.com, and it's Ross Chastain across all platforms. And I post some, and they're on me to post more. So hopefully I'll stick to that. I'm not big on social media, but my old iPhone 6S does just fine. So yeah, it's just plugging away, and you'll just see on there just us trying to updates on all the racing and trying to keep everything straight. Like you said, it's always a different car and different stuff. So we're just trying to make it all happen.
As long as you don't, I think the wrong people when you're in victory lane, then I think you'll be okay. You'll be golden at that point.
Yeah, the Victory Lanes interview at Kansas, I have a very foggy, brief, and spotty memory of. Like, I watched it back, and I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember saying that. Okay, remember that part? Nope, don't remember saying that. So,
Well, that was so emotional.
You'll have that. I was just trying to breathe, really.
Yeah, that was so emotional. I mean, it was pure, and that's, I think all of us really were so taken by that because it was really just raw emotion, and you were, that's who you are to us, just humble and genuine and really thankful for the opportunity. And like you said, you're living the dream, and that was a big, big deal, and I'm sure a big weight off your shoulders too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, who would have thought that Nice Motorsports and I could put together a winning operation after running about 10 races together, and what Cody Efall and Al Nice had built there. Plugging in Phil Gould and Lonnie Rush and a few more odd and end people that really completed the puzzle, but it were really like I think we're like a team of misfits because we've all been pushed out of somewhere else, and we all lined up, stars aligned for us to all be there at Nice Motorsports together, and it's been an awesome experience. So yeah, the Victory Lane deal was awesome. I did it in the roof. I think Kyle will be running that truck, and so if you look at the 45 truck coming up sometime soon, maybe Texas, his roof will still have some small divots, maybe you want to call them, kind of like a golf ball.
Okay.
Because they didn't fix it, they left it because it was just going to cost too much to put a whole new roof on. So maybe it's like a golf ball to go through the air better.
There you go.
You should take something and write Ross was here on the roof, so just in case they forget.
I think I did that with my feet. So.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody will know.
A stamp of approval from the winner. All right, Ross,
Yeah.
we're gonna let you go. Best of luck for the rest of the season. Next time you get a win, you got to come on, or even come to the studio and tell us all about it. All right.
All right, I will, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so
buddy.
much, Ross.
See ya.
Ross Chastain, everybody. He's so awesome. Ross is. If you don't like Ross, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
Like seriously,
I would agree.
Seriously, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who doesn't like Ross Chastain.
Right.
I mean, he's, again, it's like I said, he's so genuine and so humble and so appreciative of the opportunities. It's rare anymore in an athlete to see those qualities. It seems like so many of them. Of course, Ross has never really obtained maybe the level of wealth or whatever success that some others have, but you can tell that what you see at the racetrack and what you saw in Victory Lane, that's Ross. Mm-hmm. And he's a great feel-good story. He's very easy to cheer for, and you know, it's also great because he drives for teams like JD Motorsports and Nice Motorsports, and you know, and those guys who are, you know, they're not the big teams, and he consistently makes those teams better.
Right. Right.
You
and
know,
he gives hope for the I guess the slightly underfunded teams, the teams that aren't the big Gibbs and, you know, Junior Motorsports and those teams. He gives hope for those guys, because if those guys see him doing good, it gives them hope that they have, you know, they have some of the resources that they need to at least, you know, crack the top 10, top 15.
Right.
You know, and that's you know, good for the sport all around.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
All right, so we got like 5 more minutes left before we have to get out of here. We have to cut the show short because we have other things going on in the studio. But I do want to get to the Hall of Fame stuff real quick, because the Hall of Fame inductees came out on Monday of this week. Of course, the Hall of Fame induction ceremony is later on in the year, isn't it? Like in January or something? Yeah. And so the nominations come out like right after that, and then they vote. The 5 nominees this year that are going into the Hall of Fame for 2020 are Tony Stewart, Joe Gibbs, Wendell Wilson, Buddy Baker, and Bobby Labonte. Now, of the group, of course, we sat and debated this on the show several times, not the show, but Motorsports Madness and Lead Lap Radio, about who we thought, you know, might be first round ballot. Obviously, Tony Stewart got in on the first round. We all knew that was going to happen. But I think of the 5, and they're actually all connected together, and I'll explain that in a second. But of the 5 people, the one that I was kind of happy about was Buddy Baker, because I know Tom has been an advocate for getting him in the Hall of Fame for the last year or so, and so now he is officially a member of the 2020 Hall of Fame.
Well, and I love not only that Buddy got in, but I love that Waddell Wilson got in with him, because, of course, they're connected through Ranier Racing back in the day, Harry Ranier's team. And, you know, Waddell was a terrific crew chief. And, of course, Buddy, you know, again, to me, the Hall should be about more than stats. And Buddy, his impact on the sport, from driving to team ownership to broadcasting, his impact on the sport was consistent over, you know, several decades, and people just loved Buddy. And he was active in the sport through his broadcasting work right up until, you know, very shortly before his death, when he just, you know, he retired and couldn't, I think he was just at a point where we couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And, you know, I just think that this class is a very worthy class. Obviously, Joe Gibbs